Happy Friday. I decided, first of all, this is super easy yoga for your mental health. And while I am not sitting in a chair or on the couch this morning, you are absolutely welcome to sit on a chair or the couch to make this practice yours. Feel free to modify, amend the postures to fit within your ability and your range of motion. I decided to take the practice to the floor today, just to change things up a little bit. But first, before we go too much further, I want to talk a little bit about sitting on the floor, because some of my less flexible or more mature clients over the years have expressed that it's very difficult to sit on the floor, and I want to talk about that a little bit. First of all, if you can sit on the floor for a short period of time, it's really, really good for you. It helps to build your core muscles and the more muscles that support your spine. So it is very, very good for you to sit on the floor. However, for a lot of us, sitting on the floor can be very, very hard on our lower back because we don't have those core muscles in place, and because our hip flexors maybe not as open as they could be, or we might have some restriction in our hip flexors due to bone structure in our hips. So I want to deconstruct this whole sitting on the floor thing. First of all, if you have lower back pain, a big secret, and this is a really big secret, it was a gift given to many of my constituents in the yoga community by their guru, and it's a well-known fact in the yoga community, but it's not so well known in the rest of the world. Our hips need to be in a certain position in order to keep our lower back from having too much strain on them. And if our hip flexors aren't open enough and we can't get our knees down low enough, our knees are up here, your lower back is going to kind of curl a little bit. And the way to work around that, and this is not a cheat, this is not like, I want to talk about props a little bit. There's a whole style of yoga that is dedicated around the almost religious use of props. Props are not bad. They don't mean that you're not good enough. It's not something to be shunned or afraid of, or to feel inadequate because you have to use them. Props being things around you to aid you in your practice, like a pillow, a block, a strap, a chair, or whatever it is that you need to, the wall, if you want to grab at the wall. They're aids, they're tools to help you in your practice, but they are not something to be thought of as making you less of a practitioner. So the use of props can aid us in a lot of different ways, and when we're sitting on the floor, if we lift our hips up a little bit higher so that they are in line with our knees or slightly higher than our knees, then we can get a lot less stress on our lower back, and it can help with maintaining the posture longer and building those muscles and helping to relax those hip flexors so that maybe someday we can get down to all the way to the floor. I have found that over the years, as I've gotten older, I go back and forth. Sometimes I still sit flat on the floor, but other times I prefer to lift my hips up just to maybe a little bit, maybe an inch off the floor, and it helps to strengthen those core muscles, and it feels good. I feel a little bit more lifted all the way through my spine. So if you decide you want to take yourself down to the floor, it's a really good practice. It's a really good way to strengthen your back, strengthen your abdominal muscles, but it's also It's a really good exercise to learn how to get up and down the floor. Especially as we get older, we tend to avoid getting down to the floor because it's getting harder and harder for us to get back up from the floor, right? And the thing is that, at some point in time, we might find ourselves on the floor. And it's a good idea for us to be able to get up and down for as long as we can. And I'll teach you some cheats as we go through this. So we started off last week, we were talking about the first book of the Yoga Sutras, and we got to the point where we're talking about union with divine, or union with God. And this is towards the second half of the first book, pretty much the second half of the first book. And the section that I want to address now are several of the sutras, pretty much all of the 20s, as far as like the line items of the sutras. And these are, it describes ways or the paths to union with the divine. And in this, he talks about ways in which we can feel more connected to God. Whatever you might call your creator. Now, you gotta remember though, that since this comes from India, geographically speaking, this was an area that was mostly Buddhist and Hindu. So while there are no sutras that specifically say you're supposed to worship Hindu gods or you're supposed to practice Buddhism, a lot of the concepts kind of overlap because that was what was there at the time geographically. It doesn't mean that you can't bring these into your Christian faith or your Judaism faith or your pagan faith or any faith, to be honest. And these will help you in a lot of ways. There's nothing in the Yoga Sutras that say that you have to practice a certain religion. There's nothing in the Yoga Sutras that says that you have to practice a religion at all. You don't have to label it if you don't want to. It's just a recognition that there's something more than what we can see, feel, and touch and hear through our senses. That something put us here and something will take us back. So in the paths to union with God, he says that there are different ways to do this. And the first one is through reasoning, reflection, rejoicing, and pure I amness. Now, I kind of equate that to what I have experienced in some religion as religious study, as going to church and having worship service. That's kind of the meaning that I have pulled out of this one line is through reflecting, rejoicing, and pure I amness. And just being present to feel the presence of the Creator in your life. And then he goes and says, you can also do this through diligent practice of cessation of the mental modifications, impressions which are rendered harmless. So, meditation. That's what the practice of cessation of the mental modifications is. It's meditation. It's sitting down, closing your eyes, and just allowing whatever happens to happen without getting attached to it, and doing it on a regular and consistent basis. Then he says, for others, the path comes from faith, strength, memory, contemplation, and discernment. Again, this is also reminiscent of my time in religion. Faith is a really good one. Faith is just knowing that things are going to work out, that somebody's got your back. You got your spirit guides, you've got your guardian angel, you've got your whatever, your and your saints if you're Catholic, your Hindu gods if you're Hindu, but faith in knowing that there's something bigger than you out there and that it's got your back. Strength, memory, contemplation, and discernment. Strength is, being able to get through things. Contemplation and discernment is, to take that time to meditate and to understand that all of the information that you're getting is not always accurate or true. So you have to be mindful of the information that you're getting. Then he says, for some, the path comes very quickly to the keen and intent practitioner. So he says that, the more dedicated you are to your practice, the more you're going to feel that upliftedness, that feeling of connection to God. And he says that the time that it takes depends directly on whether your practice is mild, medium, or intense. So how much you are willing to dedicate to your practice is going to, you get it. You reap what you sow. You get out of it what you put into it. If you are going to church on Sundays and not practicing the rest of the week, then it's going to show in you how you feel connected to God. Maybe you're not thinking about God all the time. Maybe you're not feeling that sense of upliftment, of not being alone in this world. If the more you practice, the more you study, the more you faith you put into your life, the more you're going to get out of it, the more you're going to feel out of it, is what he's saying. So you reap what you sow when it comes to your spiritual practice. And he says that another path is through the total dedication to the divine. And that is when somebody commits their entire life to practice. In the Catholic Church, they become nuns or priests. In Buddhism, they become monks. In other religions, it's a complete, really dive into it and just completely, your whole life is about your devotion to your higher power. Everything and all actions that you give is your practice, and that's a big path to take. It's a very committed path to take. And he says the divine is unaffected by afflictions, actions, fruits of actions, or the inner impressions or desires. He says the divine, God, is all that is known and all that is unknown, and is not bound by time. And he says that the sound to express God is the sound of Om. And this is where this kind of comes to an end, the sound of Om. He says the repetition and the reflection on the sound of Om removes all obstacles and brings knowledge of the inner self, of spirit. The inner self is your spirit, the part of you that is watching you have this experience. And so here we have it. We're almost halfway through book 1. A little bit more than halfway through book 1. And not once has physical practice been mentioned. The sound of Om has been mentioned. And I want to address the sound of Om. It's considered to be the seed sound, and it contains all of the elements of the universe and all of the sounds that your mouth can make. So the A starts in the back of your mouth at your jaw. And if you say it, if you practice saying it and you really just kind of watch, you can feel the vibration move from your jaw all the way up to the front of your mouth as you say the syllables A-U-M. And this vibration actually it's been proven through scientific research, the MRIs and whatnot, that this sound that we generate through the sound, saying the sound of Om or repeating the sound of Om, actually stimulates certain parts of the brain. And it has a really good effect on our mood and our well-being and our feeling of a connectedness to the world around us. Om in of itself means all that is known and all that is unknown. By saying the sound of Om, you are not, in my opinion, you are not going against any religion by saying this. In fact, Christianity has the sound Amen. We end our prayers with Amen, which means and so it is. In Judaism, Shalom, which means peace. And Om is said in Hinduism, Islam, and Buddhism. So right there, the sound of Om exists within 5 of the major religions in different ways. The sound of Om is not a bad sound. You're not going to summon demons or evil spirits by saying the sound of Om, but what you will do is improve the function of your brain and calm your anxiety and feel more connected to God. So today, part of our breathing practice is going to be repeating the sound of Om a few times. We're going to start off with 3 chants of the sound of Om before we start our physical practice. And as we end our physical practice, we're going to chant the sound of Om 3 times. And hopefully we're going to, if I remember, we're going to do that consistently from now on. So let's find a nice tall spine, shoulders relaxed, whether you're sitting on the couch, chair, or the floor. You want to reach up through the crown of your head, relax through your shoulders, close your eyes for a moment, and just begin to become aware of how you're breathing right now. Notice what it feels like to take an inhalation and what it feels like to release. Notice if you can feel the air entering and leaving your lungs. Notice if you're breathing a little more easily through one nostril or the other. Notice where there's tension in your body. There's no need to judge it or change it. Just be aware of it. Begin to allow your breath to deepen and lengthen. As we get ready to begin our practice, we're going to chant the sound of Om 3 times. Taking a deep breath in. Sit with that vibration for a moment. Did you feel it? The next time you inhale, allow your chin to rise towards the heavens. As you exhale, let it come down towards your chest. Moving that chin up and down, saying yes to God, yes to the universe. Inhale that chin upward. Exhale it down. Inhale all the way up. Exhale all the way down. The next time you inhale, bring your chin to neutral. Now we're going to say no to the negative energy. So as you exhale, chin goes towards one shoulder. Inhale to center. Exhale, chin towards the other shoulder. Inhale to center, and we'll move from side to side like this. No to negative energy, yes to God. As you come back to center. Next exhalation, let's let one ear drop towards one shoulder. Inhale to center. Exhale, other ear towards other shoulder. And we're going to go from side to side here, ear down. Inhale up, other ear down. I like to think of this as drawing a rainbow at the crown of our head. The next time an ear comes down towards the shoulder, hold it there. If you want to accentuate this stretch, you can bring your opposite fingertips to the floor or to the chair next to you. As you come back to center, exhale, other ear down. Again, if you want to take this further, you can bring your opposite fingertips next to you. As you come to center, if you have your legs crossed, if you're sitting on the floor, cross them in the opposite direction. Feels a little weird, I know. We're going to do we're going to start to work into our spine. So let's bring our hands to our knees. We're going to do some cat-cow stretching, seated cat-cow. We might go onto our hands and knees today to do a regular cat-cow, but we're going to do seated right now. So as we exhale, let's curl our spine, chin to chest. Inhale as we come forward, lift your chin, press your shoulders back, press your chest forward, show off what God gave you. Exhale, curl your spine. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cats. One more time. Inhale to cow. Exhale, cat. Coming back to center. Nice tall spine, shoulders relaxed. Let's bring our left hand to our right knee, our right hand behind us. Come into a little bit of a twist. Inhale as we pass through center, and as we exhale, let's bring the twist to the other side. As we come back to center, bringing your hands to the floor next to you. Let me scoot back a little bit so you can see me a little bit better. So as you can see with my feet are crossed, there I don't have one on top of the other. I can, but today I'm just seated. So this is called seated easy pose. So our heels or our ankles are kind of lined up with each other. Everything is brought in as close as we can. So my hands are alongside my body. Let's inhale, both arms up, reach up towards the heavens. Exhale, bring your hands down. Drawing that rainbow again. Inhaling, arms up, just a different way. Palms together. Exhale down. This time we're going to bring just our right arm up. Take an exhalation, relax your shoulders down. Inhale, press up through your fingertips. And as you exhale, you can slide your left hand away, coming into a little bit of a side stretch. You want to feel it in your side body. You don't have to go far. Reaching up through your fingertips, press out through those fingertips, like you're trying to reach a light bulb or something. And breathe. Side body warmed up. Inhale as we come back to center. Exhale, right arm comes down. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale, both arms down. Inhale, left arm comes up. Exhale, shoulders relax. Pressing up through your fingertips as you inhale. And then as you exhale, start to slide over to that right side. You want to feel it in the left side of your body. Breathe. I feel like our side body muscles don't get enough of our attention in any of the ways that we work them, like in our daily life, or even when we're at the gym. I feel like our side body muscles oftentimes get ignored. Just like our feet. Inhale back to center. Exhale, left arm down. Inhale, both arms up. Exhale, palms together. We're going to bring them down through our heart. Hands to the earth in front of us. We're going to bring ourselves up onto our hands and knees. As we come up onto our hands and knees, let's make sure that our knees are below our hips, hip distance apart, and that our hands are slightly forward of our shoulders. My hair gets in the way, I might have to change my position. So our hands are slightly forward of our shoulders and slightly wider than our shoulders. So we don't have a whole lot of pressure on our wrist joints, and we have not so much pressure on our shoulder joints. We're going to bring in that Ujjayi breath. Remember the Ujjayi breath? We tighten the muscles in our throat to create an audible sound that sounds kind of like a whisper or the ocean with our mouth closed. And we're going to again bring ourselves into that cat-cow. So as we inhale, let's lift our head and shoulders, press back. As we exhale, we're going to curl up our spine, tuck our chin to our chest, curl our shoulders forward, press your hands into the floor. And we're going to continue to move through breath, inhaling as we lift our head, press our shoulders back, let our belly drop. Exhale as we curl up our spine, tuck our tailbone, tuck our chin to our chest. You might notice that it feels a little different when we do it on our hands and knees than when we were sitting. The next time you come to an inhalation, come to a neutral spine. As we exhale, we're going to come into child's pose. So we're going to bring our toes together and back, and we're going to sit back on our heels. So we're going to bring our butt back. And now you can have your knees as far open as feels good for your body. If you need a little extra space for your belly, for your breasts, give it to yourself. We're going to extend our arms forward and let our head come down to the floor. Child's pose is a very nurturing posture. It's very good for a feeling of safety, of surrender. It is the posture that many religions use to show surrender to their higher power. It's also really good for our lower back. It's also good for our ankles and our feet to get that stretch. Next time we inhale, we're going to come forward onto our bellies. So I kind of like to crawl forward. I hadn't noticed how dirty my mat was. I've been sweeping the floors and mopping the floors, but I think my dog has been sleeping on the mat during the day. So we're going to bring our belly down to the floor, and we're going to line ourselves up for some baby cobras. And baby cobras are really good for strengthening those back muscles. We want our spine to be healthy and strong. So we want to bring our elbows in really close to our ribs and let our hands just rest on the floor wherever they rest. Your proportions really have to do with where your hands end up. Our feet are hip distance apart. Our tops of our feet are on the floor. And let's connect back with that breath. So baby cobras are like a backwards stomach crunch. So as we inhale, we're going to roll our shoulders back and we're going to lift our head up off the floor. We're not pressing our hands into the floor. We're using our back muscles. As we exhale, we're going to come down. And we're just going to do this with breath. Inhaling as you press those shoulders back, start to lift your head up. Your chest is going to come up off the floor. Exhale down. Now the stronger your diaphragm gets, the stronger your back muscles get, the higher you're going to be able to lift. We're going to do 5 more. One more. Beautiful. So we're going to slide those hands in towards your shoulders or your breast line. You're going to press into your hands and bring yourself back to your hands and knees. We're going to do an opposing stretch or an opposing work to this. And we're working a little harder today than we've been, but it's still very super easy yoga. You can do this. I know you can do this. So we're going to come into our first downward facing dog. We want to make sure that, again, that our hands are a little bit wider than our shoulders and a little bit forward of our shoulders. Not much, but just a little bit. Let's curl our toes under and back. Take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, lift those hips up towards the ceiling. And at the same time, we're going to rock back. So we're going to push back into our hands so that our chest comes towards our thighs. Our head is in line with the rest of our spine. And we're breathing. So let's go ahead and walk our dog here. It's okay if your knees are bent. As we exhale, we're going to press one heel down. We're going to soften the other knee. As we inhale, we're going to kind of start to switch. And as we exhale, we're going to press that other heel down. We want to do this with breath. And remember, we're breathing slowly. We're not taking a hyper Labrador puppy for a walk. We're taking an old lazy bloodhound for a walk. The more time we spend on this, the more opening, the more stretch we get into those muscle groups. So we want to do this nice and slow. One more. Beautiful. So now let's bend both knees and start to walk our feet up to meet our hands. Bring ourselves to a standing forward fold. And very slowly, with our knees bent, we're going to slowly make our way up to standing. Yep, there's a lot of dirt on my mat. That's okay. I'm a little bit sweaty, so my hair's sticking to my skin. So let's bring our feet a little bit wider than hip distance. And we're going to start to do some standing twists. As you know, I love those standing twists. Your arms flap in the breeze. Your hands are slapping your butt, your kidneys, your adrenals. You're stimulating your adrenals. It's added bonus. And start to let out a little and letting that stop. And allowing your twisting to start to diminish. The momentum starts to die down naturally until we find our way to standing. We are going to do a standing posture. We're going to do the quad stretch today. So let's bring our feet to hip distance. And we want to make sure that our knee stays in line with our hip. We don't want it to splay out to the side, so I want you to see what it looked like from the side. We're going to take our right ankle into our right hand, pointing that knee down to the floor. Now this is the very beginning stage of dancer's pose. If you are experienced and you want to take this into dancer's pose, you're more than welcome to. If you want to go a little bit further, you can either reach your left hand around behind your back and grab your foot with your left hand. It gets a little bit more of a back bend into it. Or if you want to work towards dancer's pose, you can take that left arm and raise it up towards the heavens. Let's take a few breaths. And then release. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So let's take our left foot into our left hand. Knee is pointing down to the floor. And then if you want to, you can either reach around behind your back and grab your foot with your other hand. Or if you want to go a little bit more towards dancer's pose, you can bring your right arm up. Breathing. And then release. Beautiful. We're going to make our way back down to a seated position. So I'm going to come down through a squat. You don't have to. You can sit down on your chair. You can sit down on the floor any way you want to, but I like to always be trying to work muscles. So I'm going to come down through a squat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my hands to my heart. I'm going to lift my heels up. And then I'm going to start to turn them inward as I bend my knees and come all the way down. I'm going to hold the squat for a couple of breaths. And then I'm going to bring myself down to the floor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring one hand to the floor in front of me, one hand to the floor beside me. Butt comes to the floor, nice and graceful. And I'm going to bring the soles of my feet together. We're going to come into a bound angle posture. Now again, if you have lower back problems, if your hip flexors are really, really tight, a great way to start into this posture, working this posture, isn't to come right all the way down to the floor. It's to bring your hips a little bit higher. Put them on a pillow or on something that lifts them up a little bit higher. It'll take the pressure off your lower back and allow your hips to open a little bit more. Now, if you have already a lot of range of motion in your hips and you don't need to use the pillows, then don't. I don't always need to use a pillow or a block. Some days my lower back bothers me a little bit more than others. But I've always had a lot of range of motion in this way. I have outer rotation of my hips. I've always had a lot of outer rotation of my hips. So bring our hands to our ankles, nice tall spine, shoulders relaxed. And we're just going to hold the posture. Now if you want to encourage those hip flexors a little bit more, if it feels like there's not a whole lot going on here, you can either start to fold forward, and this puts a little bit more stress on the hip flexors until you feel the stretch, and hold and breathe. Or you can bring your hands to rest on your knees. If you're just standing, actually the next step from sitting here, tall spine, will be to rest your hands on your knees and then just kind of encourage them to open a little bit more. And if they're open a little bit more and you start to not feel the stretch so much, then you can start to fold forward. And what I'd like to do is I'll just pause where I feel the stretch intensity, where I want it to be. You know, it's uncomfortable, but it's uncomfortable in a kind of good way. And I breathe. And if I start to feel that sensation start to get milder or diminish, I might go a little bit further. And I can take my time here. I can spend a good half hour in this posture sometimes. It's one of my favorites. But I won't do that here now. But we do want to get a little bit of a hip opening going. So one more breath. Nice deep breath in. Let's let out a sigh while we're here. And let's inhale ourselves back up. Let's extend our legs out in front, give our knees a little bouncy bounce. Last thing that we're going to do before we come into our relaxation posture is we're going to do a little stress reliever that I like to do. I find it fun. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a kind of an attitudinal release of like kind of like sweeping our body, but I like to think of it as like kind of brushing away negative energy, that anything that might be in your aura, anything that you might, but it's also good for stimulating your skin and our lymphatic system, which has no way of cleansing itself. The only way it cleans, our lymphatic system cleans, is through movement, stretching, massage. Anything that moves our skin and moves our muscles helps to drain and clean our lymphatic system. So this is a good one for our lymphatic system. So we're going to inhale our arms up towards the heavens. As we exhale, we're going to reach forward, fold forward, let your hands come down and touch your legs wherever they touch. And then we're going to slide our hands up our legs. Dig your fingers in a little bit, and then up the sides of your body, sides of your neck, and then we're going to flick our hair. Come forward again and do the same thing. All the way up the sides of your body, flick that hair, and come forward. I think the hair flick is really important. It has a sense of like attitude to it. You're kind of flicking off anything that doesn't serve you right now. One more time. Beautiful. And now we're going to let those arms come down. Take a moment in staff pose here. In staff pose, our toes are pointing up towards the ceiling. Our shoulders are back and down. Our spine is nice and tall. Again, if your lower back is bothering you, lift it up a little bit. Come up on a pillow or a book or anything that brings your lower back up a little bit. And while we're sitting here in staff pose, take a moment to ask your body if there are any other postures it needs from you to make this practice complete for you. It can be standing, it can be sitting, it can be on your back, it can be on your belly, it can be upside down. Whatever it is that your body wants from you, let yourself have it. It doesn't have to have a Sanskrit name. It can be anything. Once your body feels as though it's gotten everything it needs from you today and feels ready for relaxation, then let yourself find your way to a position lying down, either on the floor, on a couch, on your bed, or if you can't lay down right now, just get really comfortable in a seated position, maybe in a nice, comfy, cozy chair. Your back is nice and supported. You're able to relax your spine as much as you can. If you're lying down, let your feet splay as far open as feels good for your hips. Let your arms splay as far open as feels good for your shoulders. Let your eyes close. Begin to notice your breath. Taking deep breaths in and long, slow breaths out. Let those exhalations relax you just a little bit more. Giving yourself permission to let go. To let go of tension. To let go of doing. To let go of attachments to thoughts. And just be for a few moments. Let all sounds become distant. All distractions unimportant. Relaxing just a little bit more. And then slowly allowing your awareness to come back to the space. Giving permission for movement to come to your fingers and your toes. letting that movement expand however it chooses, wiggling, stretching, luxuriating your way back. Taking your time. And as you begin to find your way back to a comfortable seated position of your choice, let's bring our hands to our hearts, one over the other. And just like the sound of Om is a sound that is associated with our crown chakra or our connection with God. The sound is connection with our heart is Yam. And so let's go ahead and chant the sound Yam. It sounds like yum. So we're going to take a deep breath in. See if you can feel it in your heart. Yum. Just hold that feeling. Let's give the sound of Yum one more time. Take a deep breath in. Offering yourself gratitude for taking this time for you to learn, to explore, and to nurture harmony within yourself. As you do this for yourself, you do this for all. Let's bring our hands to prayer position, our thumbs touching our hearts. Offering our gratitude out to our Creator, to the universe, through the sound of Om 3 times. Taking a deep breath in. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. May you bring this feeling of peace and well-being with you for the rest of your day and for the rest of the weekend. Thank you for joining me this morning. Namaste. Oh, thank you. Just so you guys know, I am working on having the technology in hand to start these recordings on the beach. So maybe by this time next week, if all goes well, I might be live streaming at the beach. My plan, you know how plans go, my plan is to do the live stream earlier in the morning, and then I will be posting the recorded live stream at the regular time on Blissful Lives page. So If you're joining me at Beach Bum Yoga on Facebook, you're going to get the live stream earlier, like maybe around 8 o'clock in the morning. And then if you're joining me through Blissful Life, it will be airing at the same time, 11:30, and you'll have the ocean as a backdrop. I don't know how the sound quality will be with the ocean. It's pretty loud, so I guess we'll figure all that out in the next few days, next week, hopefully. I really would like to start teaching a regular yoga class at the beach, and I plan on having you front and center in that class, so even if there's other people attending, you will be there too. So thank you. Have a great weekend. If you are a mom in any way, shape, or form, happy Mother's Day to you. That's coming this Sunday. I hope you have a beautiful day. I know that things are still kind of weird, but just make the best of it, whatever it is. Remember, radical acceptance and devotion and consistent practice is the key to our mental health. So have a great weekend, and thank you for joining me. Namaste.